for temporary problems. So I'm grateful that I can look back and look within myself and say, man, okay, what would have happened if I didn't ask my sister that? I can answer that. It would have been over. I wouldn't be sitting here, whether I would have went out, got drunk and did something stupid, or I would have taken my own life, right? So those are the two options that many people see. Right, and that's why I said we have to make sure that we have 360 security.
No matter how hard life is, we got a Charlie Mike. Yeah. Let's go.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Charlie Mike, the show. As always, I'm your host, Raul, and your co-host, William.
What's going on, y'all? As you can see, we are changing things up like always and getting better. Welcome to Charlie Mike, the show, where we talk about what is actually going on in our veteran community, especially here in Houston.
Yes, sir.
We are coming to you from the Paraland Podcast Studio, located just south of Houston. And, man, it feels good to be back.
Be back.
Yeah, it feels like we've been a couple of weeks since we've actually done this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we pre-record our shows.
Yeah, we do. And you're right. Sorry, I had to burp. Yeah, man. What you been doing? How's everything going?
Man, life is good, and we're blessed. Charlie Mike continues to grow. Our presence out there grows, which is it's a humbling experience,
right?
Man.
It's insane.
It's humbling.
Hey, we were reading some news articles, and it says Houston area podcasters, and we were like, they're talking about us. That's craziness. Yeah.
For real, man. It's a blessing, And so we've got four more coming in, podcasting here with us. We have a few shows that we helped launched. And then, the apparel line's growing. CharlieMikeMilitaryApparel.com. Check us out. We've had, our shirt release, and then we had some more stuff coming up, man. It's humbling, man. I don't know what else to say. So thank you guys out there. Really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, the support. Y'all have always supported us, and we appreciate it. And continue to support us. So if you're wearing a Charlie Mike shirt, buy another one.
Yeah. No, man. Thank you out there for all of you guys following along. Man, the show continues to grow. That's exactly what we're doing. We're evolving into a show that's a full production. If you guys watch online, you'll see multiple cameras, good quality sounds. You start seeing more of the edits come out, and that's what we do. It's
the reels have been on fire, man. I've been getting messages from people and be like, man, I've been watching. I'm just on Facebook and I click up and all y'all's reels come up. And he goes, I've never seen that before. And I was like, Dad, that's dope. But this isn't just Texas. This is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, man. Right. And so that's a testament to you guys. We really appreciate y'all. We're putting in the work. We want to make sure that everybody, the message is out there. We continue mission. We find a way to Charlie Mike, man. It's more than us. It really is. We say that all the time, but it really is. It's more than Raul and I here.
Yes.
Because there's a third person in studio. I want to take the time and welcome Mr. Jevon Wooden. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm great. Honored to be here, man, especially with such good vibes, such good energy. So I was excited when Jelly asked me to come on. So appreciate y'all. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Man, thank you. Man, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us about where you're from, your upbringing, a little bit about your military experience. Just tell us everything. Your social security number, birthday,
credit card numbers, all of that stuff. Nah, man, Jevon Wooden, as William said, from Rochester, New York, reside here in Houston, Texas. Now I've been here for about 2.5 years. Love it down here. My service was Army. Did 12 years. I was a reservist, but felt like I was active duty because I continued to get deployed for some reason. My MOS was 25 Bravo, so information technology specialist. But I had the privilege of working with mostly combat aviation brigades and infantry units. So I was able to see a lot of that side of the house, setting up not just strategic but tactically, going out in the field and doing some cool stuff, working with the Blue Force trackers and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
cool
yeah. I remember it, man.
That's a word I heard,
bro. Yeah, they gave me a crit. Like,
yeah. So man. But my service, I always say I'm here because I served. I decided to get out of Rochester, New York. I I wasn't a troubled kid, man, but I felt like I didn't have a lot of options and opportunities, so I was getting in trouble. I faced 7 years in prison when I was 17 for an assault and robbery charge. You know, by the grace of God, I didn't have to do that time. I feel like he said that was just a way to show me that was not my path. So fast forward to a couple of years later, ran into a recruiter. He just happened to be moonlighting at the job I was working at. And he was like, I think you should come down to the recruiting station. And it was a Saturday. I was like, I'll be there Monday. And it just didn't turn back, man. That was it. That was the turning point. Like that.
What year was that?
That was, 2007.
Shit.
2007, man, and I did great on the ASVAB.
Time.
Yeah,
surge time.
Yeah.
So that ASVAB test, I did well, and you know, my question was once that he said you can get just about any job you want, and I said, okay, what translates into the civilian side? Because I don't want to come back and struggle. You know, I did it to get out of this struggle. So it's like I'd say military intelligence and IT. I said I have no idea what military intelligence is. It sounds cool, but I'm going with IT, and that's how I got where I am now.
Man, I want to dig into that story some more, man. You talked a little bit about, you know, that childhood trouble, run into some trouble. What do you think it was that led you that way? You know, because I'm curious, because you seem like a pretty well put together person. You know, we met at a marketing event, you know, distinguished service, you know, honorable service. And so, like, for those young vets out there or those that are getting ready to join, like, what was it? Was it the crowd you kept? You know, was it like just the area you're in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was, you know, I really wasn't around a bad crowd. The guys I hung out with, my core, they were pretty cool, just hung out, played basketball, you know, did the regular teenage guy stuff. But, you know, when I was alone, that's when I just felt like, hey, I need to feed my family. Like my mom and my sisters, you know, the house was dilapidated, falling apart, you know, and I actually grew up in a polygamous household. So my mom was wife number 2. So her husband rotated between houses. But our house, I felt like wasn't being taken care of. So I'm like, man, I got to do something. I'm the man of the house pretty much. And it just was like that for me ever since I was little. I was like, man, I don't want my mom crying and struggling. I don't want my sisters to see this and think that this is how a man should treat them. So I just went out there and took it upon myself. I did work, but it just wasn't enough. So I was just like, I'm going to try whatever I can try.
Wow. So were you the oldest sibling?
I'm the middle child. Child of 5. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So, but I've always been that type of person. Like, when I just need to figure it out. You know.
What's your whole family relationship like?
Yeah, we're really close. You know, I'm the middle child, and I'm close to everyone. Like every single one of my sisters, my brother, and my mom, and then the rest of them. Like my 2 youngest sisters, they have like a little sibling rivalry going on. You know, we're each almost about 5 years apart. Surprisingly, I have no idea how my mom did it, but that's how it is. Yeah. So I don't know. It just happened that way, man.
You got any kids?
No, one on the way.
Oh yeah,
one on the way. Yeah,
Congratulations,
and you heard it here first because I haven't said that anywhere else. Yeah, one on the way. Yeah. My fiance and I, we are expecting a baby girl, so her name is going to be Jevon, named after me as well. So
man, how blessed!
It's a blessing.
What are you looking at due date?
The due date is actually 4 days before my birthday. So my birthday is December 12th. Hers is going to be December 8th. God willing.
Wow. That's right around the corner, man.
Right around here. Yes, man. I'm excited.
Congrats.
Yeah, bro. That's a blessing.
Yeah, it's gonna change your life,
I
man.
love girls.
Yeah.
Hey,
you love girls?
I'm a girl dad, man. I got 3 girls.
Woo!
I got 1 son. He's got 2 girls himself.
You got any money?
Not anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, bro, you ain't got no money after the baby's born. Yeah.
I heard how expensive it is, man. I was looking at some of the stuff like strollers and cribs, and I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, that's the cheap part. Wait till they start growing up, man. Wait till they start getting into the makeup, the dresses, oh man. Yeah,
but I wouldn't trade it, man.
Yeah, I would. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. So what? So you talked about your childhood a little bit, and then what is it about the military, about the Army that drew you? Did you try any other services?
Man, I'm gonna tell you. I walked in. The guy was Army recruiter, but I walked in, and all of the services were in there, right? And I'm like, okay, let me go talk to this Marine guy. And Marines was like, yeah, you come in, we're all about honor. We don't give bonuses. And I said, nope. I said, nope. And the Air Force at the time, I think they were really at capacity. They weren't really accepting too many people. So Army it was, man. It just happened to be like that. And I didn't think of Navy. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So
Would they get you 20?
yeah, they gave me 20. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. You're like a millionaire. You get 20. You know, you're like, yeah, I come from nothing. Yes, give me that. You know, so that was it. No brainer.
I feel you.
Man, and so where'd you head afterwards? Where's your first duty station?
So I went a few places, man. Like I said, I was reservist, but they treated me active. So when I got out of AIT, I ended up going to East Point, Georgia. I did a year there down at the Signal, 335th Signal Battalion. Then I went to Kuwait, to Camp Beering, twice, right, back to back. And then I was in Qatar, and then I went to Afghanistan. So yeah, Middle East was my home, man.
You know, when you're talking about BO 25 Bravo and working with BFTs, I can see how they needed you. You know, with the ramp up, with the surge going on
in those locations.
You know, yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. And,
absolutely.
and it's like we need folks to get these online. I mean, because I remember my first deployment was in 07, and all of 08, 15-monther. You know, and we were using Blue Force trackers. You know, we had folks teaching us, and so I'm like, you're like, somehow they kept me on active duty. I see why.
Yeah,
they needed all of that.
They did, man. Qatar, what they had you in that base out there?
Yeah. I don't forgot the name. I don't know why I can't remember the name, but Qatar was cool.
Yeah.
Qatar was or
Did you go
Qatar,
there
as
too?
they say.
Huh? You said you went there?
Yeah, I got hurt, and they sent me over there for some chill time.
Yeah. It was like,
Is that
man,
why you
this
keep
is
pretending to be hurt here? We ain't sending you to Qatar.
Man, Saudi Arabia, anywhere, I'll take it. Yeah. And man, you just sent me down Mexico, bro. Cancun, something like that. Yeah.
hey, it's not far. It's about 2 hours, you know.
So how long did you spend in Qatar?
I didn't spend long because that was like the jumping off point.
Yeah.
So I think I was there I spent like 3 months there, and then they would just bounce me to different places. Yeah. Like I was, and then Afghanistan, I was the health information systems officer. So I was able to travel just about the whole of Afghanistan, including like the bases you don't really hear about, which was cool. So yeah, I had some awesome experiences, man.
Yeah.
And not so awesome experiences, of course, but yeah, that I always say it shaped me. It really shaped me. Like joining the military was really what allowed me to see who I really was. You know, because when you're stuck in poverty, you don't know options. You just know that you have to do something. And the military really allowed me to learn leadership, allowed me to learn that I don't have to compete with my peoples. I can collaborate, right? Allowed me to open up and get out of my shell. Because I'm telling you, like, I did a complete 180, man. The young me, the teenage me, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. I didn't want to smile. But the military allowed me to lighten up, you know? It was like,
man, that's interesting.
Yeah, it allowed me to lighten up,
That's
man.
Yeah, and folks don't realize that. You know, you think, oh, it's hard, and you know, you're gonna be disciplined. And like, yeah, I got all that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they give you for me, it's what you take from it. And they gave me a lot of the highlights. Right, I was able to mature in there. Like I went in, even though I was 22, I was still in that scarcity mindset. So it really allowed me to go into that growth mindset and say, okay, let me see what options and opportunities I can get from this. Let me go talk to this guy from Nebraska that I would never have met if I didn't join this. You know, so you get all these different viewpoints and perspectives from different places and different people, and it's just so cool, man. Because I learned so much. I was just like a sponge coming up in there. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things, man, was going to people's houses and eating their home-cooked meals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you get to taste it from everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's just like, man, hey, you want to come over and eat? Yeah. I never turned down a meal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can tell.
Hey, man.
Sorry, bro.
I'm done talking. Nah.
Hey, I got to share that meme, bro.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. That's all he does here, man. He don't do no work. He just makes memes.
Just makes memes?
Yeah, bro.
At your expense? Or?
Yeah, at my expense. Yeah, definitely.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. It was so when I'm gonna wait to share that meme until the show comes out.
Nah, I have to see it.
It'll go alongside it.
Yeah, man. That's what's up. So you got out. So you got out, and did you? How was that like? How was your transitioning? What made you get out?
Yeah, man. I got out. I dropped my last deployment was 2017. That was Afghanistan, and at that point, my body just wasn't what it used to be. Man, my body was breaking down. Man, I had so many injuries. I had got injured early on, and they just didn't know what it was. It turned out to be my psoas, which throws off your gait, right? Because it controls your hip, the leg drive, all that other stuff. So I'm carrying all these loads, right, man packs and all this other stuff, and it's just destroying my joints, right? So I'm like, why am I hurting like this? I'm young. You know? I'm young. And they just be like, hey, man, take this aspirin, this water, and get out there, you know? But
change your socks.
Change your socks, man. You're gonna get trench foot or something, you know. But yeah, I just didn't feel the same. I didn't feel right in Afghanistan. And then in November of 2016, there was a suicide bombing on Bagram Air Force Base, and I just happened to be there, right? And that kind of like changed the trajectory of how I looked at everything. I was like, you know what? Being there firsthand, I was like, I don't think I got it in me anymore. Wow. To see people in pain, see people, you know, hurting and dying and all this other stuff. I didn't have it. So I was like, you know, I want to do something different. And technology really wasn't my passion. It just paid the bills. So I started looking while I was in Afghanistan, like 2017 after the bombing. I was like, it got to be something else. Yeah. And I remember people would always say, you're good at motivating people. You're good at getting people to believe in themselves and seeing their strengths and seeing that they can. And I said, motivational speaking is one of the things I would love to do, but that's not all I want to do. So I ended up finding coaching. And coaching just spoke to me. It was like, wow, I can really get people to figure it out for themselves, so to speak, just by asking and listening, right? So that's what I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start this coaching business. So I actually started it while I was in Afghanistan, going through all the trainings and the peer coaching and all that other stuff, getting my certifications. And when I came back to the States, I think September of 2017, and I was like, I'm good. You know, I felt great. But then months later, I just realized I wasn't good. You know, I started having those nightmares, started going back to when the bombing took place. Like I'm in that space, and I was just like, yeah, I'm starting to feel different. And
this is after you got
this
out?
Is when this is when I got home. I was like leave. Okay. And I had took a trip to Bali. That was my leave. And I was just like, I don't enjoy this. You know, I don't even want to. I don't even want to be here. So I did Bali and Thailand back to back, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't it. And realized later on, after I called my sister when I got home, I was like, yeah, I'm not enjoying life. I think I'm going to call it quits. And I was like, she was like, no, you can't do that. She just told me 2 words. She said, get help. And that was the first time I ever heard that. Right. Wow. First time I ever heard get help, because as a young man, especially a young black man, we hear suck it up, especially in the military too, suck it up. We hear you got to be 10 toes down, you got to get it on your own, all these things. But she gave me license, and I don't even know if she knows this. She gave me license to really be vulnerable. And that's why now I say vulnerability is strength. So I was able to go get a therapist, and I got my own life coach. And in that line, it allowed me to really see the power of both. So now through my coaching, I use both. I use both tools and techniques. Now I'm not going to call myself a therapist because I'm not going back to school for it. But I use all those exercises and all that stuff, and I realize that really a lot of people, if you just listen to them, you will help them get out of the depths, and that's what I do now.
That's what's up. You know, it's one thing, like with your culture and the Hispanic culture also, man. I see a lot of similarities, like that man up, like, hey, just do it, you know, like things like that. And I felt like when I was growing up also, it was we don't seek help. We don't, you know, get over the shit. Yeah, you know. Exactly. And I think that's one thing why we push mental health to an aspect. I mean, we push it every day, all day, you know, to let people know, hey, man, you know, if you're feeling some type of way, it's okay to get assistance. It's okay to get help. And man, I think that's the message we try to push the most.
Absolutely, it's very important, man. And you know, nowadays you hear about it more. You're starting to hear about it, but it's still not sinking into really where it needs to sink in at. You know, the communities we come from, they're still not hearing that message as much as they need to. So my plight is really to go into the communities. You know, that's one of the big things I'm about now is get into the communities and like talk to the kids, talk to the parents, and let them know like, hey, you don't have to get it on your own, like, you know, and you don't have to make these bad choices either, because there are other choices. If you just slow down and try to put yourself in different places that you normally wouldn't be in, you know, you'll run into some people, and it's really about showing, you know, them feeling like there's someone out there that cares. Because I noticed, as I look back on mine, I'm like, man, I didn't really see anyone who cared. The only people that cared was the dudes on the corner. They like, you going to school? How you doing? They're the ones asking me the grades. But then they become the superheroes. Yeah, they become the superheroes even though they doing the dirt.
Yeah.
But because they cared and they were technically our father figures, because most of us didn't have fathers like that, that's who we end up becoming. And that's what I try to tell people I speak with now. They're like, why do people choose to live like that? I'm like, it's not a choice. Right? When someone says it's a choice, they probably grew up privileged because you're looking at it from a privileged perspective. You grow up that way because you do not feel you have a choice, right? So if we show them early on that there are choices, that there are people who care, that there are people investing in you, and the most important investment is actually time. So that's why I think that I love what Charlie Mike is doing, right, from the veterans perspective, is showing and putting in that time in the community, especially in Houston. And that's why I was like, man, I got to come here because y'all are doing exactly what I like to talk about.
Man, we appreciate that. It's definitely, we're trying to just get a message across, man, that you can have the struggles and had a troubled past, but you can still overcome and make that into something that you're proud of.
Absolutely, man.
So,
and we were talking about Mattress Mac before you came on, right? How we went to that luncheon, and one of the things he said throughout that speech was, if it weren't for my struggle, I wouldn't know my strength. And this was coming from his daughter. And man, I've said that like 10 times in the last week or so, bro.
Yeah. He says it in every conversation. I asked him what he wanted to go eat. And he's like, bro, if you don't, I'm like, come on, man.
Bro, that message needs to be shared.
The struggle of being hungry.
And I don't care. It's like, it's just, there's so much to be shared through that. We talked about it before you came on, the vulnerability, being able to share your struggles. Like, that's the point of this show, is to continue to show, like here's a man, or here's a veteran that may look like you, right? Which doesn't look exactly like us, but is different, face similar issues, and look at us, what we're doing now.
Absolutely, man.
Right? Like, face some really, you could imagine if that decision went a little bit differently, before you joined, where would you be now, Or if you didn't mention that to your sister and she didn't say, get help, Where would we be now? It's hard to think about those things, but it's the reality that affects a lot of us vets.
Absolutely, man. And I think that's the important piece. Like, you're touching on the introspection aspect, like really looking within yourself. No matter what situation you're in, we got to realize that, we can't place a permanent solution on a temporary problem. Right. And that's really what it boils down to. That's where suicide comes from. That's where all these things we feel are coming from. We are causing permanent solutions for temporary problems. So I'm grateful that I can look back and look within myself and say, man, okay, what would have happened if I didn't ask my sister that? I can answer that. It would have been over. I wouldn't be sitting here, whether I would have went out, got drunk and did something stupid, or I would have taken my own life. Right. So those are the two options that many people see, right? And that's why I said we have to make sure that we have 360 security, right? And when I say 360 security, we know as vets what I'm talking about. Yeah. But I look at it from a support perspective, right? It starts with you. You have to be willing to have those tough conversations because people aren't mind readers. People can't know that you're not doing fine. You got to be able to say, hey, I'm not okay. I need help. I need support. And then you have to be able to let them know. And it could start with one person, right? Maybe your best friend or whoever you're closest to. You can let them know, like, hey, I can I lean on you for support when I'm down? Can I let you know that I'm not okay without being judged, right? And when you find that person, make sure you hold yourself to that. And then you start looking out. You do that 5 meters to 25 meters. You start doing them just like you would in the military. Yeah. But those are people. That's your first level. That's your family that you feel closest to. Maybe you don't share the intimate details, but you let them know, like, hey, man, I just not feeling it today. I need to go rest. You're just letting them know that, hey, I need some support. I'm not going to quite tell you why yet, but I do need it. And then you got another level of people where it's like, I call them your virtual mentors, where you look at them for inspiration. They've done some things that you can aspire to do, or they've said some things. Maybe you pull some quotes from them. You can have that level too, where it's just like, I need this a picture on my wall of this person to remind me when I'm not in my right mind that's what I want to be. that this person went through some things. One of mine is Viktor Frankl. You know, Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning. He went through the concentration camp. Pretty much his whole family got killed. But he still had the wherewithal and the compassion to say, hey, I felt bad for the German concentration camp prison guards who had to do those things. He didn't say he felt bad for the prisoners. He felt bad for the prison guards that they had to do those things. Right? And that's I'm not at that level, but I want to be, right? I aspire to be at that level. And that's why we call it mindfulness practice, right? It's a practice. You may not hit it every day. You may regress, you may progress, but it's a practice, right? The thing is doing it every day to try to be better than you were yesterday. And that's where we are today. Yeah,
I love it, man. Everything you said. The part where you say you have to speak up and say something if there's something wrong. For the longest time, man, I smiled all the time, and people didn't know I was struggling with anything because they're like, man, you seemed happy all the time, but they didn't know. Yeah. I didn't talk about it until I did, and then people were like, oh shit.
Yeah. And that's usually how it is, man. The people who smile the most are typically hiding the most pain. You know, because I'm the same way. You know, I smile and like I'm legitimately smiling. I'm legitimately feeling good, right? But I'm not. You know, it's like, you know, when you do that, when you get to the point where you're looking to put this facade on and you start believing it yourself, but you never really address the root issue. And that's when it just boils over, right? It may boil over. You don't even know why. Like you win an award and you're like, I should be happy, but I feel like crap. You know, I feel worse than what I did from the start. And that's when you realize that, okay, I'm taking too long. I need to lean on that 360 degrees of security, right? I need to start telling people I need to get my therapist. I need to get whatever. And it's also important to note, like we're talking about therapists and all that other stuff. There are pro bono programs. Like if you Google it, you can look up pro bono therapy programs, especially if you're a vet. You know, military, one sources, all of them, they offer at least 6 free sessions. So you can find places, even if you don't have the finances right now, you can find help.
Lendenauer. It's nope, not Lendenauer. It's a Give an Hour.
Give an Hour, yep.
Giveanour.org is another organization. So for you vets out there, if you're listening and you're looking for help, vet or Give an Hour is a great place to go. And then if you're like in crisis, don't forget you could always dial 988 and press 1. You know, we actually had someone call that number. I was just listening to his episode too recently. It was CMO. He was on. He was like, man, I've called that number. You know, and they're fantastic people on the other side. And I'm like, I've met them multiple times at different events, and all they're trying to do is connect vets to resources, especially those in crisis. So if you're in crisis, 988, press 1, military or veterans. Or if you're just looking for extra help, 988 is a good place to go.
Absolutely.
You can even text it.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, man. Yeah, no.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking, you brought up CMO. Have you heard of them before?
I haven't.
Man, it's a great organization. Combat Marine Outdoors. I knew that. I was testing you.
Yeah, good job. I passed.
Yeah. Nah, it's great dudes, man. So tell us more, man. So you got out, you realized that there was an issue and you fixed it. So I want to ask you, so you ever sit back now and think like, okay, you got a baby coming in December, bro. You ever think back and be like, man, if I would have done something crazy, none of this shit would be happening.
All the time.
Yeah.
You know, one of the only reasons why I look back is to see how far I've come, right? Because I never want to get a big head. I always want to remain humble and serve with humility and compassion. So I don't want to be that type of person who forgot everything. You know, I want to lean on those things so I can inspire, so I can influence, so I can encourage somebody else. So that's why I feel like, man, everything that I've gone through, it wasn't for me. You know, it wasn't for me. It was for me to share with everyone else so they know, like, hey, you're not the only one. Or maybe you can apply something I had in my story to yours now and get up out of that, and then you can do the same for someone else. Because I feel like everything we go through, sometimes we ask, why me? And then we don't realize that we were just the catalyst to carry the message. Right, we made it through so we can share that with someone else and uplift them and build them, right? And so that if we look at it like that, if we want to know the reason, look at it as you being the reason why someone else makes it through.
Shit.
I mean, I feel very close to you now because it's like we've been on this journey, Raul and I together, trying to share, you know, that message. And you know, you don't know us that well. We don't know you that well. We just know that there was a connection, and to hear you now echoing a lot of the same things that we've been trying to say, is reassuring because it feels like it's the reassurance that, yes, we're on the right path, right? Like sharing the stories, that's what we're about. Letting others know, like sharing that struggle. Like it's difficult, but again, here's someone that looks not a whole lot like us, but has been through a very similar aspect, and look where he's at, shining.
Man, it's amazing to see it, bro. It's amazing just to sit back and just witness everything that you're saying and just the way you're presenting yourself, the way you speak. Man, I see you brought a book, too. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. This is On Your Kingdom. This was actually my first book that I published back in 2021, and I brought a couple copies for y'all. My bad, I brought two. I can get one more after this, though. But this book was, it's really, it's a tool, right? It's a tool that you can implement through and through. I put a workbook with it, so it's a lot of exercises that I use to overcome. I mentioned I did therapy and coaching, and these are some of the exercises that I use to overcome and kind of create an action plan for sustained success. So I can go through these, and I like to do it at least quarterly, do some of the exercises to make sure, see how my values are aligning, see if my goals are aligning with who I want to be. So that's what this is, man. It's not a long read, and I did that intentionally because I didn't want any fluff. I wanted all actionable stuff, and I wanted it to be something that you can carry along with you wherever you are and just look back like, hey, I'm not having a good day. Let me open this up. Why is accountability important, and how can I make sure I'm holding myself and others accountable? And that's what it is. So you can look at the table of contents. Whatever you're dealing with, there's something in there for you. Forgiving yourself is the first chapter, right? Because a lot of us struggle with forgiveness, especially as vets. Yeah. So we feel like, if we lost someone, why are we here? And all these other things you feel. Or sometimes you feel like, I want to go back. I want to join back because I missed the camaraderie and all these other things. But the root cause is something deeper. So we gotta look at this type of stuff and then realize, okay, let me do the work. Let me actually do the work, the hard stuff, instead of trying to run and make it easy and act like nothing's wrong. The toughest thing we can do is look within ourselves and say, okay, what can I do now? What do I need to do, right, to really address this and face it head on?
So how can people find this book, and where is it available?
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon. You can go on Amazon, search On Your Kingdom. You can find it there. Or you can also go to my website, brightmindconsultinggroup.com, and you can buy a signed copy.
Or you can have a show and invite them on and get your own copy.
Or you can do that if you're a podcast. Oh, yeah, there you go, podcast host. I'll go ahead and give you one.
So you said you do a podcast also.
Absolutely.
What is your podcast focused on, and what's it called? And
yeah, so mine is called Design Your Life and Business, the podcast for leaders. And it focuses on exactly that. It focuses on personal development and business development. And I just bring on people who have been successful in business or as leaders in some capacity, like you all. I would love to have y'all as guests. And I look at leaders in a number of ways, right? When you hear you're a CEO of your life and all these other things, but I want the people who are going to talk about the adversity they face to get to where they are now, right? I think that's the most important piece that we don't really hear out there, right? Everyone wants to talk about, mindset and all this other stuff, but okay, how did you get that? That doesn't tell me anything. Right.
Yeah,
I want to ask people those tough questions like, okay, what did you do? What issues did you face? How did you overcome that? Because that's going to tell people more than the successes, because that's not the same path for everyone. But everyone goes through some type of failures and adversity, right? So that's what the show is about.
Man, for the longest time, once I started changing my life, man. I was uncomfortable about sharing stories. I was uncomfortable about talking about my sobriety. I was uncomfortable talking about my arrest, any of that stuff. But there came a day where I was like, you know what? I want to share it. So I went to social media and I posted a picture of my mugshot. And I was like, look, this is who I was. And I'm not that person anymore. And people were like, when did this happen? And then I started to open up and share my story of addiction and recovery and things like that, man. But it's definitely hard to get out there and speak on it. You know what I mean? Because people judge, and I had to get to a point where I was like, I really don't give a fuck what you think about me. You know what I mean? I'm doing this for me, and I remember hearing somebody else's story, and that person's story helped me.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, what I'm saying somebody else feels the same way that I felt that one day, you know?
There's no hopefully, man. I mean, that story, I guarantee you, even if they didn't like or comment or any of that, somebody's thinking about that, and they may not get it until weeks later, months later, years later, that was what the catalyst was, right? But that's again, the vulnerability is strength, right? To get to the point where you can share your story, it's not a comfortable thing by any stretch, but the more you share it, the more it helps you heal and the more it helps others heal, right? It wasn't easy for me to post on my site like, oh, yeah, I was facing 7 years in prison. I struggled with alcohol addiction, or not even addiction, just alcohol abuse, because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, right? It wasn't comfortable saying, hey, I remember being blackout drunk, waking up to my dog licking me on the floor, stuff like that. It's not comfortable. But what it does is it triggers someone else. And when you get to the point where you can do that and realize that it's not the naysayers, it's not the people judging you that you're talking to anyway. Yeah. Right? They can troll me. They can say whatever they want. Good for you. You're wasting your time, because the people I'm looking to reach at, they're the ones that's DMing you saying, man, I appreciate you sharing. I'm going to go get help. Hey, I appreciate you doing this. That made me feel good, made me realize I wasn't the only one. That's who you're talking to. Everybody else, they wasting their time. It doesn't even matter. And that's how we have to look at it when we do share these things, when we do share these vulnerable moments.
Yes.
Don't look at me.
No, I like it. That's amazing. I'm motivated.
I see that.
Let's burn,
you got all the
burn this place down, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to hear that. It's that's great. I mean, I want to say thank you for sharing all that. It's been
my pleasure.
It's humbling, man. I don't have another word for it, because to hear your story, for you to open up and share a lot of those issues has been has brought a lot of value to this podcast, to this show. Excuse me, has brought a lot of value to this show, because it's exactly where a lot of us find ourselves. Right, that transition is difficult, and it's never ending. Right, we're constantly trying to transition out of that military. But here we are, a group of veterans again, talking about the military. So on that lines of transition, what did you find helped, or what did you find that didn't help along that transition out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that can help ties back to that 360 degrees of security I talked about. It's finding a community, finding a group that you feel comfortable with, that you don't even really necessarily have to find a common bond per se. You just need to be able to talk things out. And you need to be yourself and feel comfortable in that environment. And a lot of us vets, we're like, oh, man, I can't share it with a civilian because they don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you may find that that's not what you need. You may not. I say as a consultant, right, when I go to a business, I'm a tie this analogy in. When I go to a business, they're like, how can you help me when you don't know this industry? And I said, you're the expert. You're the expert. I don't need to know the industry. I need to know applicable things that I can tie in. I need to have intuition and insight that you don't have, right? And that's the same thing with us vets when we share stories with civilians. They don't need to be the expert on your trauma, right? They may need to listen. They may need to provide different insight. You haven't looked at it from a different way. And that's what a therapist does. Therapists may not know, they haven't gone through what you've gone through, but they can listen and provide some insight, provide some exercises, provide some tools. So we have to realize that instead of going in there like we know it all, we know what the solutions to our pains and our problems, just go in there empty, right? Go in there being willing to connect on different levels, and that community, next thing you know, will become the catalyst for your healing, right? And you will be healing others. The other thing I say is challenge yourself. And I'm not talking about the challenges of being an adventure junkie and all that other stuff. I mean, challenge yourself to be better, right? Write a book, learn some things that's new, do all these different things.
Don't look at me, bro.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Got a book over there. That's what I'm talking about. But that's what you have to do, is challenge yourself, right? Because oftentimes, as vets, we come home, we're like, civilian life, it's the lack of structure for a lot of us that we struggle with. But if you place structure on yourself, start using that calendar, start planning your day, start saying, okay, I'm going to take this hour to do some development, some personal development. I'm going to read for 30 minutes here. I'm going to exercise here. That's what really helps me is to make my own structure and challenge myself to do one thing that scares me every week. Just one thing that's going to make me that 1% better every day. And I feel like I have a purpose. I feel fulfilled. And that's the thing a lot of us miss, because we forget what our purpose was without the military, without the camaraderie that we're talking about. So you got to really redefine that for yourself. And it's a constant thing. Like you said, we're constantly transitioning. That's the piece. Purpose changes, goals change, and you change. So you have to really check in with yourself ever so often to see where you are and who you are.
Bam. So what did you find that, what was the hardest part about leaving the military? Like completely. I mean, I know you were reserve too, so I'm sure there was times where you had a civilian job too, right? Like, so I know like reservists and National Guard are usually easier for them to transition because they're used to it. Like every year or so, whenever you come off orders.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part about actually leaving it all behind?
I would say the hardest part for me was the soldiers. You know, the soldiers that were under me, man. Like, you know, they really kept me going on a lot of days. And that was the hardest part, is like, okay, what's my impact now? You know, who am I there for? Why am I here? And like I said, I had to rediscover my purpose and find different ways. And really, you got to ask yourself why. I do this 5 why exercise where I ask myself why 5 times. Mm-hmm. And that gets me the root cause, typically around 3. Why 3? So it wasn't necessarily the soldiers. I realized that it was more about leaving that indelible mark, and I talked about it earlier, putting that seed into other people where they feel like they can grow and flourish in their own way, right? Not in my way, but in their own way, where they knew themselves. You know, they knew exactly what they wanted to accomplish, knew what they wanted to aspire to be. And so I just figured it out what to do now in the civilian side, and that's really what's been helping me.
Man, you're dropping a lot of knowledge right now.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to turn this episode into a book.
Yeah.
Just this one.
Yeah. All right, man. So what does your everyday look like? So what do you said you're a consultant. Mm-hmm. So tell us.
Yeah, man. So first and foremost, I have what I call my power hour. And that's my morning where I just spend time with myself, where I'm educating myself, make sure I'm hydrated, make sure I move my body, you know, making sure I'm taking care of me, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then after that, man, when I actually get into the work, I make sure I build in time where I can go for a walk, disconnect from technology, and do all that other stuff. And I just plan it, right? People can't just throw stuff on my calendar, because I want to be able to prioritize my day. Now, of course, emergencies come up, things happen. But if you're willing to set your schedule, and I call it Own Your Time, I actually have something called the Own Your Time checklist that has 17 ways to do this. But if you own your time, if you are really intentional about what you're doing and where you're putting your energy, you will find that you're severely less stressed. That is why so many people are stressed, because they're reactive versus proactive. So I really make sure I plan no more than 3 meetings with people a day, because that just takes energy if you get with the wrong people. So no more than 3 meetings, if I can help it, per day. And I just plan out whether I'm going to do business development, whether I'm going to do client service, whether I'm going to do lead gen, what networking events I'm going to hit. You know, I plan all that out before that week even comes, because I want to make sure I know. And then, you know, anything that comes along, I can adjust it. I can ask myself, all right, should I move this VIM, this very important meeting, for the VIP? And the VIP is me. So I got to ask myself, is whatever came, is it as important as what I had on my calendar? And if the answer is no, then I'm going to do what I had on my calendar. Mm-hmm. If the answer is yes, then it's probably life, limb, or something serious. Then I'll do that, right? And that's how I look at it.
One of the things that I found, too, with having a calendar that way, it allows me to check, like, because it may sound like a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. I had somebody approach me about working with another nonprofit, and I was like, I gotta check my calendar. You know, I don't know what that looks like, because every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something
Absolutely.
else. And so having the calendar set up that way and be like, okay, look, I'll get back to you in a week. I'm gonna put it on my calendar. I'm gonna do some research. This way I can digest it. Like, does this feel good to me?
Exactly.
It has helped out tremendously having my calendar run by somebody else, thank God. Because it's true. I have somebody else run my calendar daily. And
you need that type of stuff. Like, and this brings up a good point, is knowing what you're good at. right? Knowing what you're good at. Like me, I just want to get into it. I just want to make it happen. I don't want to do all the admin stuff. So like you, I have a virtual assistant. I have an assistant who helps me like do all the day-to-day stuff because I know I don't want to do all that. So if you get to a point where you are struggling to get things done, you may have to ask yourself and have that tough conversation and say, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, right?
So, okay, well, how would you answer someone that says, well, it must be nice because you can afford it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say this. What is affording? Because I look at people, you can go out to eat, right? They buying drinks. They're doing a lot of different things, right? They're wasting a lot of money. So you got to ask yourself what's important to you. Because when I first started this thing, I didn't have money, right? I didn't have, I'm going to keep it real. I didn't have money, man. I was struggling, but I knew what my purpose was. So I was willing to sacrifice. Like people look at my bio and they say, when did you get this degree? When did you do this? And I'm like, because I wasn't out here doing this. Like you said, is you are doing one thing, you're giving up something else. And that's how people have to look at it. If I know that I can pay $5 an hour for a virtual assistant, maybe I can only pay him for 5 hours a week, right? That's $25 that I just had somebody come in for a week and handle all my stuff that I didn't want to do, right? And that's how you have to look at it. $25 to help me scale my business, to help me scale my life and get myself in order so I can go ahead and make sure I'm doing the things I need to do to get to where I want to be. That's a no-brainer for me. I will sacrifice a couple meals for that, right? Because I know that's going to get me to be able to eat what I want later.
I heard that.
Oof.
Yeah.
I sacrifice a couple of meals because I know I'll be able to eat what I want later.
Yeah, I like that.
Dude, that one hit different.
Hey, that's gonna be on the reel. You know that, right?
That one hit different, bro. That one just hit. I mean, look, vets, I know you guys are out there listening, right? And you can hear this person speaking, and sometimes it seems like it's speaking straight to me, but I know you resonate with that, right? The first thing that I've read lots of CEO books, I've read lots of entrepreneur books, business books. They all say the first thing you do is you give over your calendar and your emails to a virtual assistant, right? Because there are things that I know I uniquely do. And Raul said the same thing, you know, that's before we came on. He was like, hey, man, he's the one that has to go out there and do that. And I'm like, okay, great. You know, but something else has to come off my plate.
Absolutely.
And so we're working to put systems in place to where that's what we're doing. So if you're out there and you're like, you feel like you're getting bogged down by the little things, like treat yourself like that business, like the CEO of your life. You know, take charge of your calendar. Otherwise, something's going to pop up and you're not going to be able, you're going to say yes to it. And then the real opportunity is going to show up, and you got to say no to it because you're already committed to something else.
Absolutely, that's so true, man. It's so true, and it's tough to do, right? Especially, you know, we run into a lot of people who are people pleasers. They won't admit it, but that's a lot of people's problems. A lot of people, they may not want to go out and go party for 5 hours. They may want to stay home and read a book and do something else, but they say yes because they don't want to let that person down. We got to get over that. Like if you really want something out your life and then you're going to blame this person, like we got to start holding ourselves accountable, right? And that's where it comes out to Jocko Willink, another vet, right, Navy SEAL. He talks about extreme ownership, and that's what we have to start taking ourselves on. Is like looking at like, what is my part in this, right? If I'm saying yes to going out and I really don't want to, or I know I shouldn't, then why am I, right? What am I getting out to? So you really got to start doing that exercise that William talked about. Like, okay, is this as important as this? And then comparing that stuff and give yourself some time, right? If you need a couple of days to do it, do it. So just know yourself, but also know that everything you do needs to align with your goals, which need to align with your values.
Man. Yeah. I mean, I want to dig into your book a little bit more, but I got to let you know that this podcast is made possible by Charlie Mike Military Apparel, because that's where we started, right? This show is brought to you by that apparel brand. And if this resonates with you, go on to charliemikemilitaryapparel.com. Check out the lines that we have. They truly embody that Charlie Mike spirit, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in. So about your book, because you know, I feel there's a misconception out there that it's hard to not that it's not hard to do. I'm just saying there's a misconception that you need to have certain things done before you do it. You know, so what motivated you to write that book?
Yeah, man, this book, I really didn't have writing a book on the radar when I wrote this book.
Like,
to be honest.
for real?
For real. Like, I really didn't have it on the radar when I wrote it, but something just told me, like, man, just write it. Just do it. So I found a book coach because it was my first time. I'm the type of person I'll invest in myself if like I said, if I know I'm not good at it, I'll find someone. So really, I listened to what she said, right? Listen to, hey, you can voice type your book. You know, you don't need to do all this research and stuff. Like, speak about what you know, right? And that's what I did. I just literally voice typed this book over the weekend, spoke about what I knew. Then I had an editor edit it and format and do all that other stuff. And that's how this book came about. So it's like, if you really want to write a book, you can. Like, you got to lean on the experiences you've had, especially as vets. Most of us have a ton of stories, and we're typically good storytellers. That's what people want. That's what makes people remember, you know, the points you're making. So if you can tie stories and you can make it fun and make it readable, you can write a book too. Like, it's not that hard. And then there's some books, depending on what you want, it's just 5 steps to doing this, right? 10 reasons why this. So you can literally make stuff like that a book. It's just about fleshing out the idea and then making sure it flows well. So anyone who wants to write a book, I challenge you to go ahead and get it started.
So what is a most common thing that you see with or the underlying theme with some of your coaching clients? Like, so first of all, some of them veterans, or they all like blended pretty much?
Yeah, they're blended, but I do have some vets.
So what would you say is like the number one issue that folks present themselves with?
Man, the number one issue is it's their baby, right? I work with mostly the leaders, the execs, or the owner, and it's their baby, and they don't want to delegate. They don't want to relinquish the control they need to scale.
What we talking about right now?
Oh, man. Hey, I feel like y'all had a conversation before this. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Oh, that must have resonated.
Yeah. So it's their baby. So what's one of the things that you try to work on, like that first thing?
Yeah.
Delegating is hard.
Delegating is hard. Well, I have a formula, 3DA formula. So it's delegate. We all know what that is. Delete anything that does not serve where you're looking to go, or it doesn't serve you at that moment. Delay, right? Holding it back. So instead of Q1, maybe you do it in Q4. Maybe you do it a couple of years from now. It's a good idea, but not for now. And then automate. You know, any repetitive systems, go ahead and make sure you have the technology in place so you can welcome in the growth that's coming. And also spend more time. You got to equate, like, how much time am I spending, which equals money, doing these tasks that I can go ahead and automate. And automate also could be leveraged by having a person do it, right? We talked about having a VA, having someone else do it. That's automating your day, right? So things like that are very important. And then it also ties into the component of confidence, right? In order to increase my client's confidence, I tell them, hey, what you can do is create SOPs. We know very well about those standard operating procedures. So what you could do is say, hey, I want it done this way. Write out how you do it, right? And then have that person you bring on do a test run, right? Have them go, I'm going to hand this to you. I'm going to micromanage at first, but then as you prove to me that you can do it, I'll relinquish the trust to you. And that's how I tell them to do it. Like, start off with little things, and then as you start building the trust, then you can start adding more things, right? Then you can start pushing more things on. And that's going to get you to the point where you start feeling like this person cares about it just as much as I do. And you'll find more often than not that they will actually do it better than you because that's not your zone of genius. And that's what I find. Like, if I want to create a nice video reel, if I sit there, it's going to take hours, right? I'm going to be clipping, and I don't know all the software and all the stuff. But if I give it to someone who specializes in that, they're going to do it in minutes, and it's going to come out better than I would. And that's what you need to look at. You need to realize, like, one, it doesn't have to be done at your level for it to be excellent, right? 2, if you let them do it, chances are they're going to do it because they want to prove to you. They want to show you, like, hey, I got this, right? But then the third thing is, you know, when it comes to running a business, right, if you really want to grow and scale, you cannot do it alone, right? You cannot do it alone, and that's where a lot of people fail. We hear this solopreneur culture, right? It's just me. Well, if it's just you, I promise you probably won't make it past 6 figures. If you wanted to do a multi-million-dollar business, it's going to be very hard for you to get there. You need teams. You need systems, you need processes. And that's why a company like McDonald's is so known, right? McDonald's is known because they can literally plug and play anybody in there. The CEO isn't there flipping fries. You know, they're not in there, right? Ray Kroc wasn't the one flipping the fries. He had a system in place. He wrote his SOPs. And he had people plug and play, and they go through all that training. They make sure they're good on that, and that's it. They literally can plug anybody in. Once you build your business to that, that's when you know you're actually a CEO.
Man,
Yeah.
that's good stuff, bro.
It is.
You're coming
It
in
is.
at the right time.
Yeah, you definitely are. And I'm gonna listen to this again later on. Man, I feel like that y'all would have a badass friendship, man, because y'all speak a lot alike. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I appreciate it, man. That's thanks, Raul. Yeah, and thank you, Jevon, because this has been a fascinating conversation. Let me ask it a different tone of question for the veterans that are out there, right? Who are doubting themselves. What is it about a veteran that makes them, to use one of the words of our other guests, better than civilians? Or what is it about a veteran that sets them up for that success?
Well, the tone of resilience comes to mind, right? Veterans are typically very resilient and willing to find out what it takes to complete the mission, right? In the Army, the soldier's creed says, I will always place the mission first. I will never quit. I will never accept defeat. And that kind of resonates and reverberates in everything that we do, right? At least the vets that care, right? That's going to mean that we're going to work as hard as we need to, right? We're going to figure it out, whatever it is to get the mission done. We're not willing to accept that it just can't be done, right? We're going to say, okay, let me try it this way. Let me try it that way, right? And we're very, very, very persistent in that, right? And then we're also willing to say, hey, you got a minute? You know how to do this, right? So that's what's going to make a vet so good at whatever we're doing, right? Even we can come in and not having a clue about what's going on, but we will sit there and analyze it. And another thing is vets, for most of us, things move a little slower, right? Because we've been through some things. So we can look at stuff, and while everyone else's hair on fire, we're typically more calm about what the situation is taking place. So those things make us great leaders, and it makes us great employees and employers.
Yeah.
Yeah. How they say, like, when something hectic's going around, look for the calmest one in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why are you so calm?
Yeah.
Like, well,
This is nothing.
Yeah.
nothing.
Man.
And that's great, and we really resonate with that. So my final two questions for you before I let Raul close us out is, first of all, how can somebody follow along with you, right? And any calls to actions that you have for them, like how can somebody get in contact? I know we mentioned your book, but
Absolutely. So one way, you can go to brightmindconsultinggroup.com, or you can follow me on social media, on Instagram, Twitter. It's Jevon Speaks. Facebook, LinkedIn, just search for Jevon Wooden.
man, we appreciate.
And they
that.
could get your book on Amazon.
Yep, you can get the book on my website, brightmindconsultinggroup.com, or Amazon.
And say your podcast one more time.
The podcast is Design Your Life in Business, the podcast for leaders. And you can find that on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you want to listen to your podcast.
Yeah, that's right, man. I'm excited. I'm gonna have to go take a gander and take a look.
Absolutely.
He said gander.
Hey, man, I'm trying to expand my vocabulary. It was the word of the day delivered to me. Yeah, man, you definitely got a fans right here from us. So I really want to say
Appreciate
thank you, and thank you for your time. For being present, for showing up, for being vulnerable, for leading with all those stories. I'm sure we could spend easily another hour just talking, because I want to hear more. But as you know, Charlie Mike means continue mission. So my final question is, what does the term Charlie Mike mean to you?
Yeah, it ties back to what we spoke on earlier, man. Charlie Mike, to me, means to keep going, but don't go at it alone. Make sure that you are sharing your story. Make sure you're letting your voice be heard, and make sure you leave an impact on this earth, your indelible mark in your way.
Good luck, bro. Good luck following that up, bro.
Bye. No, man. We just want to say thank you for coming on the show. Seriously, you need to come back. We'll talk some more. We'll chop it up. Like William said, you got fans now, bro. You got friends and you got fans. We're gonna keep up. We'll keep in contact. And you guys, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and Be sure to follow my man William on all his social media platforms at Mustache Wisdom.
Woo!
His morning motivational videos are, man, they're amazing, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're doing good.
Appreciate that, bro.
And be sure to follow Jelly at
Charlie Mike Media _Jelly. She's running the controls right now, but we want to give her a shout out, Jelly. We love you, girl.
Yeah, and y'all just leave me alone. But with all that, Charlie Mike.